The equipment's old, the pool's very old, and it needs some help. So at a minimum, if we were to replace it, like for like with new materials, and a material that would give us a 20-year warranty, we have gotten some quotes, and that would be about $1 million to keep the existing pool configuration. Kevin, do you mind chiming in whether that was just the pool or all the surfaces around as well?
That will take care of everything, including the surrounding.
Okay, because those were also issues with public health. So it would be addressing all those issues, and we have a working pool, current size, to move forward with. So again, that's about $1 million. We've also gotten some drawings and proposals from a pool company to expand the pool, make it larger. And we've gotten a number of quotes. There is one, I think, that meets the specifications, the sizes that we would consider a good pool size for competition, so on and so forth. That would push into the adjacent lot that we currently rent. So that area would be taken over. Kevin, was it just their backyard or the whole lot?
Actually reviewing it with Doug, the reality is the new wall that we would install would completely eliminate their backyard and garage that is in the back. So there is a potential of completely.
Kevin, you're cutting out. It's hard to hear you.
Doug, are you able to jump in?
Yes. The way the drawings are laid out, it takes away the garage of the house, but in reality, once we cross a parcel line, then we're going to have to completely overtake the parcel and have it merged. So the short answer is that yes, the house and the garage would be eliminated if we did a new pool configuration.
Thank you. And that estimated cost is about $5.5 million. Just to put it in perspective. So back up to pool repairs, right below that, we have to finish the HVAC in the classrooms at the high school after we finish the electrical upgrade, and we're estimating that to be about $1 million. And then the 600 wing CTE modernization, that's a topic for a little more discussion with the board. And when this originally came about, there were two pathways or areas that we were applying for that would have given us a little bit more money. We did apply last year. We did not receive the fund. We did not get approved for the CTE funding, FP, sorry. And we reapplied this year. It sounds like we did not get approved for one of them. And I think we're kind of waiting for a final on the other. If the other one came through, we'd get about $840,000 of a $4.5 million project, leaving about $3.6 million coming from the bond. And we'll, on the next slide, open it up for discussion and kind of focus on that particular project and whether or not we want to proceed. Last summer, we also came to the board with a list of roofs that need to be replaced. We did a number of those last summer. There's about $2 million left in re-roofing projects at the high school, including the pool building. So depending on what we do with the pool would impact that figure as well. And that pretty much brings us to, well, if you look at the first column, current funding, that if we did all those projects we just discussed, that'd be just shy of 11 million. Just to put us in perspective. Next, I know a band room has been the topic of conversation with the board. We haven't really identified where or what that might look like, but again, bringing it to the board, trying to gauge our interest in moving forward with that and prioritizing all of these projects. Next, we have door and hardware upgrades. Again, this is to secure the further secure the high school, we anticipate that being about $1.5 million. And then to further complete the campus with HVAC in all classrooms, we estimate 2.5. We are approaching the time that we need to resurface the field. We anticipate that to be about $750,000. And then listed in the Measure Q project list was a literacy center at the high school. If we were to move forward with that, we anticipate currently about $2.5 million for that project. Also identified in the facilities master plan was a new bell system. We do anticipate that to be about $300,000. And then we've included a baseball field lighting and fencing project. My understanding is when we started construction of the 500 wing and a number of other things were going on and parking wasn't available, we started allowing people to park on the baseball field. That's come with a significant cost for the district and staff, as well as materials and rental of lights, so on and so forth. So we've thrown this on there. I don't know if Kevin or Doug wants to jump in further on the rationale behind this particular project.
The current scenario and how we park cars on the field now, by the end of the season, we are having to do, essentially we have to replace every sprinkler that's on the field. We try and flag them at the beginning of the season, but those, they're little flags. They don't get paid much attention to. The rental of lights is an ongoing expense that we incur for quite a few months out of the year. I see a lot of money being spent consistently if we're going to continue to park on there. I brought this up as a recommendation to, yes, it'll cost us money up front, but could have saved us a lot of money in the long run as well.
So essentially, we're proposing to put up permanent lighting, and we have a need for temporary fencing periodically throughout the year to have permanent fencing installed, and really to recommend that we do not park on that field anymore to maintain the integrity of the field. Next, we have a new security camera system from the facility master's plan. We've put in $300,000 in there, but to be honest, the degree and sophistication level that you want to go in with a system, you could have quite a range in costs, so that needs to be determined as well. We also have land acquisition for 3 additional lots on Palm Court, so if that's still an interest of the board to continue to buy those properties, we estimate about $1.5 million. And then finally, as we alluded to earlier, there's a placeholder here for a larger pool that would push into the adjacent lot and that would be about $5.5 million. When you look at the total, that 5.5 is not included in the 21 million. Neither is anything for the band room because we don't have a cost included. So everything after the re-roof falls into the future issuance of 10 million. And so those projects would happen at such a point that we can receive that funding. And or if on the first column, if there's projects in there that the board does not want to proceed with, that would free up dollars in our current cash to move forward with other projects lower on the list. Next page, please. Slide. So that really concludes like the information part of the presentation, and we wanted to open it up to the board for discussion. As I alluded to earlier, the 600 wing is a $4.5 million estimated project. And again, we don't anticipate currently, we know we're not going to get funding for one of, I don't know if it's called a pathway, Chrissy, or
Pathway is fine.
Design and engineering, I believe, something like that. So if we only get for one, and we may not even get for that one, we get about $840,000 net, that 4.5. I've had some discussions with Chrissy, and when this was originally presented to the board, it was based under the assumption that we would receive funding for both to offset the total cost. So we don't know whether we put that project to the side for, future applications, and at such a point that we do get awarded for the CTEFP, or if the board is behind the project and would like to move forward with or without the CTEFP matching funds. And then, of course, we have the big topic of the pool and what direction the board would like to go with the pool. Any option from not doing anything with the pool to refurbishing the current pool or expanding the whole complex altogether. And then finally, prioritizing, looking at the list that we've provided and seeing if there's items on there that should be kept, things that should be added, and whether or not we can come to some priority on the list so that we can identify projects and get moving on them, so that we can ensure that we use our bond dollars within the 3-year period that's identified. So I'll open it up to the board.
Ms. Stashevsky, thank you very much. Mr. Henning, thank you. And as Ms. Stashevsky just said, the column Measure Q current funds, that's what's proposed. If the board is looking for something different, that's where we need direction. And if the board's okay with the Measure Q current funds, then the next column is Measure Q future series. What's the board thought? What are the thoughts from the board on the items listed there as well? I'll be taking notes.
Because we faced a lot of uncertainties with COVID and with our budget now, I think we need to take a cautionary approach to bond money because it's one-time spending. And yes, we want to provide the newest and the best, but with all the unknowns, I think we need to be a little more cautious. I think we should actually add a COVID-19 line to this because there are going to be some really unknown expenses that we can't pull out of our regular general fund. And some of the things that was suggested in reopening schools were hygiene stations around the campuses, something called the electrostatic light system, filters for all rooms called the charcoal grade, and then barriers, plexiglass. And if we diverted that right now to the bond, we could begin some of those things so we could get the schools open quicker for the high school so that they can get the education they need. So that would be a suggestion. And then if we ever got COVID-19 relief money, if they pass a $20 trillion federal bill and include us, we can always refill that thing. But I think that's a priority we should set because I don't know where that extra money is going to come to make those kind of accommodations to get the campus reopen. The other thing is that I think I would suggest we look at moving security camera system up the line. We've had some problems, and I think moving forward, we may continue because of hours and this and that. So that's another suggestion I would make. And again, it's always down to whether you feed the family or buy a new car or a new couch. So I would probably go after the more practical things like roofing and any of those things that really need doing so that the facilities we have aren't damaged further down the line when we have even less money. But those are my suggestions. But I would really encourage considering having a COVID-19 fund because the bond measure does say to make health, safety, and accessibility improvements. So it's not like we'd be using the money improperly.
If I can ask a very quick question, Mr. Shesky and Mr. Henning, the difference between, I'm looking at the Measure Q current fund list, the 10.8 million and the 11.6 available. There's a little cushion there. Are the numbers that are estimated, are there contingency numbers in those dollar amounts?
Dr. Cora, they're educated guesses.
Okay.
So
And I
there's a
only
little
have,
cushion in there, but it probably wouldn't have been the end of the world if we would have had the total come up to closer to 11.6.
okay. And I only asked because as Ms. Colbeck talked about the security system moving up, if those numbers, and I totally get what you're saying, if those numbers are accurate, 300,000 could be included in there, but again, that's still, it's not much of a cushion, and not knowing if those amounts are underestimated, overestimated, it's our best guess, correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
And I think that maybe to go back to the slide and focus on the first two, and then whether or not we want to proceed with the CTEFP and where the board is at with the pool, because that's going to identify how much really is left in the current funds versus not focusing on those two specific items first.
When would we find out about the CTEFP program?
I think we're going to know pretty soon here, probably within the next month. Would you agree, Chrissy?
Yeah, we hope so. They identified spring, so we're hoping to hear soon.
But we do know, correct me if I'm wrong, that of the two we submitted, we were not approved for one of them.
Correct. We were not approved for the engineering pathway dollars.
So that means we're only going to receive half of what we had hoped to receive.
Ms.
At
Mead?
best, yeah, we haven't, we'll receive a final allocation amount.
Okay, Ms. Shevsky, Ms. Shefferly, Ms. Mead has a question or a comment.
Just as a new member on the board, could you inform me of what kind of modernization we're planning, we were or are planning for in those two?
So we were going to expand the 600 wing where the current engineering pathway is currently located. There are a number of bays and that whole building up there at the top of the hill at the high school. We were going to renovate the whole the whole building to accommodate those two pathways. And Chrissy probably has more details on the equipment and how it was going to look.
Correct. To include an expansion of the machine shop for the engineering pathway, including classrooms, and in regards to the arts, media, and entertainment, again, including classrooms, sound rooms, production rooms, to be able to eventually offer more advanced capstone classes in both of those areas. And we did get some preliminary specs drawn up, correct, Doug?
He had some preliminary floor plans. And I also want to add that it would also be a modernization of what is presently a district storage location, formerly the auto shop. So it would also help the high school recapture a space that was originally theirs, that's not presently theirs at this point in time.
Thank you.
I'd like to ask what buildings the $1 million in the first section would cover for HVAC.
It's intended to cover, first of all, my apologies for listing M&O as the project origin. That was a cut and paste faux pas, my bad. But that would cover the 100s, the 200s, the 300s, and the 400s. And then we haven't really given much thought about the 600 as much, but we were thinking that was going to be part of the CTE project. But basically, that would get us the majority of the classrooms on campus by getting the 100s through the 400s.
Right. So $1 million would cover the 100s, the 200s. Now the 100s, are they the ones that are getting the new windows? Because I know those rooms are really old and there's big cracks in the windows that, the sand blows in when I used to be there. Is that going to take place before, that obviously will be taking place before those rooms are air conditioned, right?
The plan is not yet in place. So far, the district, we've only proceeded with kind of a small piecemeal approach of replacing some windows here and there. We did do 3 at the 100 wing over the past, the spring break from the year prior.
Oh, that's good.
But it's a costly item. The district, or excuse me, the high school has a lot of substantial windows in terms of size. So with substantial windows comes substantial costs. But yes, you're right. It's good to have quality windows in place when you're conditioning your space.
Okay, so basically the 100s, 200s, 300s, and 400s are most of the classrooms at the high school. The 500s are already air conditioned. The 600s would be when they were modernized, correct? Is that correct?
Correct, but if we didn't proceed with the 600 wing project,
Yeah.
We would also try to do the classrooms at the 600 wing as well.
Right, okay, thank you very much.
So if we did not, will we still need to spend 4.5 million on the CTE modernization if we only have the one CTE program and not the 2?
That question could go either way. I think right now the way it's shown is that we're still proceeding with the full-blown modernization project, giving the facelift to the whole building and implementing the improvements to both pathways as was proposed on the 2 applications that was submitted to the state. Could the scope of the project be reduced to lessen the extent and only capture the application for which we may get funds? I mean, that is also a feasibility. I think the idea was if we're just going to go tackle a building, we might as well just go full bore and do the whole building and kind of turn it into a nice state-of-the-art modern building.
How many students would be using the 600 wing? Because the band room, we know how many students use that. And it just doesn't seem, I mean, it's nice again, but I don't know, I'd be more cautious on holding off to see where these 2 projects float and some of our other options, because we're going to be spending a lot of money just to try to get the students back on campus. So I'd be real hesitant to modernize or redecorate or whatever, because we need to look for the future to modernize classrooms as a whole for the greatest number of students.
And I don't have the student quantity numbers, but in terms of classrooms, we'd be looking at, it's 6 classrooms plus a set of student restrooms.
Well, I think we do need to have a conversation about a band room too. I mean, that's, the current band room is not large enough. We've had parents come and speak to us, and everybody's looking at the 600 building. I think that does warrant a further discussion because we have such a good band program, and we're bringing them up from the elementary school that also has a very good program. So it'd be nice to be able to continue that. And then the pool, I'm in favor of pool repairs. I mean, I would love to have a brand new pool. I would like to expand and have an Olympic size and all that, but maybe we have to scale down and just do the repairs.
And I understand, because I agree with you about the pool. I'm concerned about the $1 million repairs, because at a certain point, even with your own car, you get to a point where you say, how much more money do I pour into this? In the elementary district, we even gave the high school $50,000 in the same kind of situation to pull the high school out of having to close the pool. And now we're talking $1 million, but as we know, it's not CIF approved, it's not this, it's not that. So moving forward, I just want to make sure if we spend $1 million that it can give us another maybe 5 years or whatever, because $1 million is a lot of money for a pool that's not approved by CIF.
Mrs. Colbeck, I think I need to clarify. I know it says repairs on there. It's really a replacement. It's resurfacing the whole pool. It's new equipment. It's new cement area around. So it is completely refurbishing the entire pool as new. So it would be all torn apart and rebuilt.
So the difference between a pool repair and a new pool is the new pool would be CIF size?
No, so
What's-
where it says pool repair, that is just an as-is replacement of the current pool.
No, but I
It's
think
not a
what,
repair. It's not a repair.
I think what Ms. Urias is talking about, correct me if I'm wrong, Ms. Urias, the 5.5 million, if the brand new pool in lieu of repairs is done, then that would be a completely full-size pool where we would go into the land that's right next to the site. Is that correct?
Yeah, we're
Well, I
trying
think
to,
you
yeah.
keep using the word repairs, and we probably, I regret that we have that on the slide. It's not a repair, it's a replacement. So the $1 million price tag is to replace as is, same size, same layout,
Okay.
same configuration, but new equipment, new surfaces, and a 20-year warranty with those materials.
But
The 5.5, yes, is to expand and have a much larger pool. Kevin, what are the specs on that 5.5 million?
It will actually, our current layout right now is 6 lanes wide, which does not meet CIF regulations. The new pool will take us to, sorry, give me just a second.
I honestly don't feel like a pool is a priority at all. I mean, maybe I'm just an old fuddy-duddy, but how many students are educated in that pool area? I know schools need a pool. I know that. I know we have sports that are done in that pool, but I feel like all of the things in the first section are really important. I also think that I'm just going to be unpopular here and say that the 600 wing modernization for $4.5 million seems excessive. And can those students not be taught in those buildings? I mean, I know you guys have done some work in there getting those programs started, and I really appreciate it. And I think it's the way that we should go. But right now, and I do agree with Mrs. Colbeck about putting by some money from this first payout for, wash stations and things like that. I think we do need to be really proactive about that because we just don't know right now. And I feel like $4.5 million and $1 million to repair a pool that's not going to be CIF. Everything, the band room, I do think that's really important too. I agree with Mrs. Urias. So I have questions about a lot of this.
Mrs. Thompson, can I add that if we do nothing to the pool at all, likely it will be closed and non-operational because the pool is too old.
Yeah.
The health department is giving us a number of warnings that we need to make improvements for safety reasons. And our equipment is failing and parts are not available. We're kind of MacGyvering it along the way. And it's not filtering correctly. So we will not be able to have the pool open for use. So the choice at that point is either redo it or we close the pool.
Yeah, I would be in favor of closing it, quite frankly, because, and I'll take
I
the
just want to
hit
make
for.
sure you understood the
I'll
option.
take the hit for that from the community because my concern is for educating our students and seeing our students achieve. And I don't I mean, I'm sorry, I just don't see that as being a priority.
I want to follow along with what Mrs. Thompson, Ms. Colbeck, and Mr. Rios have been talking about. My question was, how many students use the pool? How often is it used in comparison to the band room? And what we don't know about the COVID, I thought that was a great idea to set some money aside for safety. That $1 million, do we have an estimate of how many students use the pool and how it's used during the year?
And if the community can use it, I think it's an asset for the community as well.
Right, but that's what I'm asking is what, how is it being used right now?
During the summer, the pool is typically used by the YMCA, and then it's open to the public usually 4 or 5 Saturdays of a given summer. Otherwise, it's generally in use year-round between the 2 water polo programs, varsity and JV, and then the boys and girls swimming programs. I do not think that the pool facility is used very often during the conventional school day, however. Excuse me.
And I don't think we need to, there's nothing wrong with just not approving the go-ahead on these things. It doesn't mean we don't want to do them. I'm just saying we just put a hold and we start finding out some answers before we give the money and say, we're going to do this, and then we just move ahead. Because even in nothing against football, if you see the football, now we have to pay $750,000 for a new turf. Those are the kinds of things when you have budgets like this, you have unknowns with COVID, and our students are not even in the classroom. They have to take a second chair to whatever decision we make. And so therefore, again, we need education to be at the forefront. All of these are wonderful. And the pool is, at the time, we thought it was crazy, but we do maybe need to reach back out to, I know Ginger Girardi is head of a committee of getting a pool in East Area 1. And she has, she's raising private money. She does this. And if along the line we can help with that, then we're small enough a town that we really need to maybe band together and use our money as wise. But just by just saying, putting the word hold or reconsider by it doesn't mean it's a done deal or it's a dead thing. It just means that right now I'm not buying a new car and I'm not buying something else because there's a lot of knowns in my household, whether my husband will have a job a year from now, whether we'll be able to feed the family next week, because those are real questions for a lot of our families. And we need to continue to ask those kind of questions because, as we keep saying, get our kids back in the classroom and let's get the education going.
I agree with Ms. Colbeck's comments right now. We do need to look at our priorities because we have this money coming in, but at the same time, we need to see what is actually benefiting all students that we have at the high school with this bond money. And I know we're not in the business for pitting one team against a band, but we need to focus on the priorities because once again, we're fighting an unknown right now with COVID. And you brought up a great point earlier about we might need to make improvements just to have school again. So our number one concern should be putting students back into the classroom and educating them as well. So I think we just need to come back, put a hold on this, and just move on right now.
Well, we can set the top ones, the gym is in the session, what were the other top 2? Those are things, and that's why I said we need to put a COVID line because we don't have the money. And if you look at the list for opening schools, oops, sorry, it's a timer, there's a lot of things here that we might consider and we may never get money for. And I would really hate to say, oh, we can't open our schools because we don't have money to put plexiglass in a certain place in the school. So I'm just saying that we're very fortunate, as he said in the district, our taxpayers have given us the benefit to use bond money. And so, again, it's not a death wish for these other things. It's just, let's sit back and wait and see on some of them.
Well, I just like to say that, yes, it's important to get kids back in the classroom. However, we are looking at the whole child. And I think that we also need, I know I'm the unpopular one. I am the one that advocating for a pool and for a band room. I want those extracurriculars that after they're done in the classroom, they have something fun to do. That does contribute to their whole being. And so yes, we want to do it all, but I think these things are important as well. To have a pool in the community, to have a band room for our up and coming students that are starting in elementary. I mean, true, they're not academics, but they serve other purposes for that whole child. And I do understand that academics come first, but also the emotional well-being of the child also needs to be considered.
I would agree with you, Ms. Riss. It is very important, but from my point of view, I just want to see those things put on hold a little bit until we get, air conditioning then. I'm kidding. Until we get all of, I think the portico and the electrical upgrades, the McMahon gym, the classrooms, the roofing, and maybe some money for the modernization, but I think 4.5 for 600 wing is a lot right now when we just don't know what's the future holds. But I do agree with you.
So is the purpose of today's meeting to give you more direction?
Just exactly what's happening right now. I've been writing down notes. And Ms. Mead's going to say something, and then I'm going to kind of recap what I think I've heard.
I just wanted to really have us work on replacing that question mark for the band, because it's used so much by so many students, and the extracurriculars. We've worked so hard in this district for that program for years that I'd really like to see that question mark with some idea of what that might cost.
Mr. Henning, correct me if I'm wrong, Ms. Shefferly and Ms. Sepsky, I know we spoke about this. There's kind of three options: expanding the current band room, which is not the favored, using the 600 building for the band room, which conflicts with CTE. And then we found a room, I'm not sure, Mr. Henning, what it's called. It's up above the football field. We went and we checked it out. Mr. Shefsky, I believe Ms. Shefferly went and checked it out, but that wasn't a favorite of the band instructors either. Those are kind of the three, because we're limited with space on the campus. Mr. Henning, what's that called? Or Mr. Schmitz, what's that room called up there by the football field?
The maintenance building.
Yeah, the warehouse.
So those are kind of the three that were possibilities, and two of them.
Even the one that used to be the shop up above on Virginia Terrace,
That's the 600 building, I believe. And that's the CTEs.
part of it, isn't the other 600 across?
No,
That's the 300 ag building that you're thinking about.
Up above the bleachers, that's,
Yeah, but I'm not, it's the maintenance building, DSA approved?
good question.
I don't think so.
Mr. Henning, do you know if that's DSA approved by any chance? The maintenance building?
yes, it was at the time,
That's
1920?
Sorry.
late
Minor
40s.
minor detail, guys.
Let me,
So-
go ahead.
Dr. Cora, and the largest space in the 600 wing, which is the industrial arts building, is only about 10 to 15% larger than the current band room. So it's not a substantial improvement. It just feels bigger because the ceiling is dramatically taller. So, I mean, if you're basically the problem with the band room is the big question is where does it go? And if you're really thinking pie in the sky or really thinking bigger, I mean, we built a brand new parking lot over at 4142 Palm Court. That's a space. Obviously, heaven forbid, if we didn't have a pool, then that would be a new space. But yeah, I mean, that's why there's a question mark here, because it's hard to quantify what it's going to be unless we have an inkling of where it's going to go and what it's going to look like.
Let me tell you what any more comments or questions, and then I'm going to tell you what I think I heard.
Okay.
Okay, here's what I think I heard. As I put my glasses on, the portico, the electrical upgrade, the McMahon gym seismic retrofit, move ahead with those. HVAC classroom, move ahead with those. Hold off on the CTE modernization 600 wing for right now because of the cost and not knowing also what other costs we might have coming from COVID, and continue with the re-roofing. So really putting on hold or moving the pool repairs and the 600 wing down to the lower section of items, not moving them away, just moving them down and looking to see where we have to go with COVID, what has to be done, how much will that cost, and then come back. Did I hear correctly? And not a unanimous,
Well,
not unanimous, but for the most part.
More information can only help us.
Is that what I heard? Okay.
well, I think having a community pool is important. Okay, and I might be in the minority,
Yeah.
but I think it's right up there.
No, I agree with you, but I would like to wait so we can get a CIF size pool. That's what I would prefer, not to throw more money down that rabbit hole and just wait and put it into something bigger and better,
But
which
in the
might take
meanwhile-
it might take a couple of years, but in the long run, I don't know. That's just my, but I do want a pool too, eventually.
So, Ms. Uris, to answer your question that you asked before, what was the goal? The goal is exactly what happened. In open conversation, I take notes, I listen. We have Mr. Henning, Mr. Sefsky, Mr. Schmitz answering questions on the other end, and then I summarize, and that gives us direction. So if I got that correct, then that's what our direction.
So what direction did you get
So
regarding the
direction is-
band room?
From portico down to re-roofing, move forward with those except put pool repairs and the 600 wing on the lower section on the kind of hold till we find out some more information about what's needed for COVID. And also the other one that we also need to find out about is the band and what options are there for the band.
Yeah. And the CTE wing, we would need to see what kind of funding comes in so we can not have to spend $4.5 million.
Yeah. And Mr. Henning, I think I heard you say too, correct me if I'm wrong, that the 600 wing is only about 10 to 15% bigger than the current band room?
The largest classroom space, which is the old auto shop,
Not the
Yeah.
whole building.
not the
Okay,
whole building. Yeah, the whole building's over 10,000 square feet.
got it.
But in terms of, the largest available space that's in the room, because that auto shop is not a small space, but it's still not substantially larger than the current band room.
Got it. Thank you. So, Mr. Henning, Mr. Schmitz, Ms. Sosefsky, did you get the direction?
I think so. I just want to be clear on the pool. We are likely going to have to close it because we cannot continue to repair that. We don't have the capability of repairing it. So as soon as it stops operating, and my understanding is today that the filtration went down to 50%, and we keep putting money into repairing it. I don't know that we want to continue to, and again, we're MacGyvering. We can't replace the equipment would be very costly as well. Was it about 300,000+, Kevin? That's the pumping equipment, the pump equipment.
Yes, that's about a fair estimate from what we've heard.
So I just want the board to be aware that whether we move forward or not with the pool replacement, expansion, or nothing, at some point, probably in the very near future, the pool will not be open, period.
Would we be able to use the pool anyway, the way the COVID the requirements are going right now?
Currently, no, you cannot be in a public pool. I'm hoping that COVID isn't the way of the future, though.
I think it's going to be until we get a vaccine, and who knows when that's going to happen. Okay, Mr. Shevsky, Mr. Henning, Mr. Schmitz, thank you for the information. I think we got our direction, and that's what was needed for this information item. Thank you.
All right, and the next item is 7C, the district risk and safety issue. Staff will discuss with Board of Trustees current risk and safety conditions. Dr. Cora?
Thank you, President Thompson. Ms. Sanchez-Reyes and Dr. Geary and Ms. Stashevsky and all of us will kind of chime in at some point. The board has provided a memo. I believe you have a hard copy in front of you. Just talking about safety as a district priority, and as in the past, we've experienced numerous safety issues throughout the year, most recently, obviously, COVID-19. And we'll have this with us, as I just mentioned, until a vaccine is created. And due to the loss of several key administrative positions, Cabinet discussed staff responsibilities related to risk and safety. So just like the last item, the goal is to engage the board in the discussion regarding risk and safety responsibilities and the plan as of right now moving forward. The executive director, Dr. Geary, was the lead contact when safety concerns were brought to the district. The risk and safety manager also handled, Mr. Arjun also handled numerous safety issues and served as a main contact to the police department and fire department. And so the chart below was compiled by Cabinet to determine the major tasks that were done. They were currently assigned to Dr. Geary, and then the rest of them, risk and safety manager, Mr. Arjun, and where they're currently assigned to. So myself and Cabinet were here to answer questions as to, like, for instance, serve as the point of contact for safety, examples of potential school threat. Why is the superintendent's office listed there now? Reviewing school safety plans. It was the risk and safety manager. Why is it school site principals and business services? So we can have that conversation of why things are placed with the current proposed departments. And then we'll have a conversation with the board and go from there. So it's engaging you in conversation, risk and safety.
Okay, well, I think that hopefully this conversation isn't going to be as painful as the last one we just had. I think that all these things, all the tasks listed are major safety things. And if we're going to make safety and health a priority, it seems like this position should be reinstated instead of being siphoned off superintendent's designee, business services, technology department. I mean, instead of everything being done correctly, it's going to be chopped up and I think, harder to measure the effectiveness, in my opinion. I think this is one position we may need to consider reinstating. That's my opinion.
I agree with Ms. Urias. One of the things for returning to school is they're talking about a designated COVID or district safety person for COVID return. And I don't think, we know we have principals, we have this, we have maintenance, but all of those have their own areas of expertise, and to put our students at risk and our staff at risk because we don't have anyone focusing straight on safety, I'm very concerned. One of the things is there's supposed to be a committee and this person's supposed to go here, do this, do that. It doesn't put any of that into. You can maybe reassign some of this stuff, but there's no COVID in here. There's nobody to go around and see how we could possibly do 6 feet, see how we could get equipment. And if it's not Jeff, who I advocate for, because Mr. Argent has so many connections in the county, he can pick up the phone and call the county person here and county there to get masks, get this. And he's proven himself through many of the disasters. But all of these are just our normal risk. We haven't added at all COVID. So now who would you put in charge of COVID? Superintendent's office? I don't think it's going to work. Superintendent's designee? It's not going to work. We need someone who is solely focused on the safety of everyone besides everything else he's been doing.
I agree with the comments that have already been said. This position, I think, is one of the most crucial positions of the district because it involves the safety and well-being of everybody here within our district. And, if you take away the name Mr. Argent and you just put, safety person, they have to know how to work with multiple organizations and they have to be able to respond on the spot. And I feel that we need one designated position to do that because if we try to contact somebody in the superintendent's office, who knows, they might be at a important meeting with somebody else during a crisis or something like that. Whereas if we have that one designee who does all the safety and risk issues, they're on the spot right there when we need them. So this is crucial. And I think that if we are going to come back with this position and whoever it may be, it's a big position to fill. And I think that Mr. Argent, we were spoiled with him during everything that's gone on with this district, all the external circumstances that we couldn't prevent. He's done a great job. And I really think that having one person to do the job is exactly what we need. So thank you.
Dr. Cora, does the safety and risk position, is it flexible enough or do we need to tweak it to add COVID type activities to the job description?
Looking at the job description, and Ms. Sanchez-Reyes, I'm not sure how well you know the job description itself. If you do, please feel to chime in, but we can always take it to the Personnel Commission if needed to revise. There's always in administrators' job descriptions, other duties as assigned, and COVID-19 falls under safety. So anything to add to that, Ms. Sanchez-Reyes?
I don't know the job description well enough to answer any the specifics on it, but I agree with the job description where it does have on there any other duties as assigned. And normally a job description is pretty generic, so that and especially in a management job description. So it would I'm sure the duties would fall into that section of the job description.
And I agree with, I'm not going to just reiterate what everyone else has said, but I agree with everything that has been said about Mr. Argent. I think he's an excellent representative for our district as far as risk and safety. Whenever I was at the high school and something came up, he was right there. So I do appreciate that. I know he has great connections, as Jarek said. So I would be very happy to see him reinstated.
And until some of this stuff settles in, we won't have our business assistant superintendent. We won't have our executive director. And so you start moving down the line, who knows the people at the police office? Who knows the fire people? Who knows this? And also the other thing is that we know our top people don't live in town, and Jeff doesn't, but he lives less than 10 minutes away. And that man has come at 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning, You know, he is here 2 or 3 times and when Bedell was burning. So it's that kind of hometown service that no matter how qualified you are, how many degrees you have, sometimes you just can't find it. You have to stay with homegrown or close enough, we'll call Sataquai homegrown, with those kind of people who have the history with Santa Paula. And quite frankly, with all the turnover coming, we don't have a lot of history anymore. And that's a safety concern for me too, so.
Dr. Cora or Sherry or somebody, can you tell us how his position is funded? Does he get paid from our general fund, or how does he get paid?
Mr. Shevsky, you want to cover that one?
He's currently funded under the LCAP plan, which in essence is unrestricted general fund.
Okay. Okay. The board had received an email indicating that perhaps he was funded through.
He could be funded through safety credits.
Through safety credits?
The only thing about that, and I'm going to let Mr. Shevsky add to this, is that money's used for other safety areas, which would take away from the other areas. Any more specifics about that, Mr. Shevsky?
Yeah, so we get about $70,000 a year in safety credits. It's a formula based off of our district ADA compared to the whole JPA. And historically, I've looked back at the last few years, and we've expended upwards of our annual allocation every year on various safety services and materials that are approved by the safety committee. So I believe if we continue to purchase those services or materials, we really aren't saving the general fund anything. We're just robbing Peter to pay Paul. It's just shifting where he's paid out of, or that position is paid out of, and it doesn't save the general fund at all. The only way we would save is if we say we aren't going to purchase those items we've purchased in the past.
All right. But the tasks listed speak for themselves. Look at the very first bullet. Serve as point of contact for safety. Example, potential school threat. So.
Other comments or questions from the board?
How do we unabolish the position? We know when we make a mistake, so we just want to know.
I think what I need is direction from the board to, just like the last discussion, which I think I've got, that is to move forward to bring the position back in June to discuss for potential approval. And Ms. Sanchez Reyes and I will work to work out all the details to bring it back June 10th, which is only a couple weeks.
Everyone agree with that?
Yeah, I would also maybe let him know that he has bigger shoes to fill because we've lost the security person at the high school. We've lost this person, we've lost that person, and we're adding COVID. But he also has history in, a good history in workman's comp, and we lost that person in HR. So, you know what? He can be jack of all trades, so.
Kind of like Doug Henning. Jack of all trades.
Okay, so I believe my direction then is to work with Tommy, work out the details, bring it back June 10th on how to make it happen. Okay, got it. All right, Tommy, you got a little work to do, me and you.
All right. We're going to move on to information 7D, and I do have a public speaker, Miss Jeanette Ortega. Hello, board members, Superintendent Cora, and staff. My name is Jeanette Ortega. I attended a meeting on regards to school closures and firing of employees due to the financial state of this district right before COVID hit. In this meeting, it was stated our schools' enrollments were down, and enrollments were projected to go down even further in the next 2 to 3 years. With that being said, this proposal is wanting to raise development fees in order to build new facilities in the district in contrary to what is going on in this district. This district was given land and money from the latest developments to build 2 schools. A few of the board members voted to sell the property and use monies to build the Ag Department Ranch, which yearly only has about 65 ag students using it. If this new proposal passes, I urge you to really consider the whole student body of the district, its employees, and the families. Stop being negligent when Stop being negligent when acquiring fees and designated land to build self-serving projects in this city. I would ask the 3 board members that have the majority to really think for themselves and not follow popular vote or vote yes just because you are friends with each other, and really consider the overall needs of each student. Our city and overall state is in dire needs right now, so please be wise in any future funding this district receives in the future from development fees. All right. And D, public hearing on the proposed adoption of a developer fee study with the increase of the statutory school fee. A public hearing is to be held on the proposed adoption of the developer's fee study and the increase of the statutory school fee. It is recommended that the Board of Trustees conduct a public hearing on the proposed adoption of a developer fee study and the increase of the statutory school fee. So, okay, yeah. All right. So the governing board will conduct a public hearing regarding the proposed adoption of a developer fee study and the increase of the statutory school fee. The public hearing is now officially open at 8:33 p.m. And I already read the public comment. I'm sorry. Call for comments from the Board of Trustees. Any comments? With no further comments, the public hearing is officially closed at 8:33 p.m. Thank you. Let me just write this down before I forget. Okay. All right. All right, we will now move on to action items. Number 8, action items. Number 8A, approval of courses for Isbell Middle School and Santa Paula High School. Staff recommends that the Board of Trustees review and approve the proposed new courses for Santa Paula High and Isbell Middle School for the 2020-2021 school year. Santa Paula High School Dance 2 and Cybersecurity, Isbell Middle School Advisory. The staff recommends the Board of Trustees approve these courses for the 2020-2021 school year. Is there a motion?
Move to approve courses for Isabel Middle School and Santa Paula High School.
Thank you, Mrs. Sharias. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mrs. Mead. And is there a discussion? If there is no discussion, we'll take the vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, say nay. The motion carries 5-0. Action item 8B, 2019-2020:15, approval of level 1 developer fee justification study report and resolution. The Board of Trustees will review and consider approving the February 2020 developer fee justification for the Santa Paula Unified School District, and it is recommended that the Board of Trustees approve this. Is there a motion?
Madam President, I move to make a motion to approve action item 8B.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Urias. Is there a second? Thank you, Mr. Luna. Is there discussion? All right, let's take the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Nay. And it carries 5-0. Action item 8C, Resolution 2019-2016, authority for the Board of Trustees to improve compensation for certain categories of employees for 2020-2021. The Board of Trustees will review and consider approving this resolution to unrepresented employees to be filed with Ventura County Office of Education, and it is recommended that the Board of Trustees review and consider approving this resolution 2019-2016. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Mrs. Mead. And is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Ms. Sharias. Is there discussion? If not, we'll take the vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? And the motion carries 5-0. Action item 8D, Resolution 2019-2017, temporary loans between district funds for 2020-2021. The Board of Trustees will review and consider approving a resolution to authorize fund transfers as may be required to be filed with Ventura County Office of Education / School Business and Advisory Services Department annually. It is recommended that the Board of Trustees review and consider approving this resolution authorizing fund transfers for the upcoming fiscal year. Is there a motion?
Move to approve.
Thank you, Ms. Sharias. A second?
Second.
Thank you, Mrs. Mead. Is there discussion? Then we'll take the vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? The motion passes 5-0. 8E, Resolution 2019-2018, transfer to the Deferred Maintenance Fund for fiscal year 2020-2021. The Board of Trustees will review and consider approving a resolution to authorize the transfer 1/2% of total general fund expenditures annually to Fund 140, which is deferred maintenance. It is recommended that the Board of Trustees review and consider approving this resolution. Is there a motion? Thank you, Mrs. Mead. Second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mrs. Urias. And is there any discussion about this? No, and let's go for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? And the motion carries 5-0. Resolution 8F, 2019 through 2020-19. Approval to utilize piggyback bids for goods and services throughout fiscal year 2020-2021. It's recommended that the trustees review and consider approving this resolution authorizing piggyback bids. Is there a motion?
So moved.
And is there a second? Second. And is there discussion? All right, let's go for the vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Nay. Passes 5-0. 8G, Resolution 2019-2020, appropriation transfers for 2020-2021. The Board of Trustees will review and consider approving a resolution authorizing the appropriation transfers necessary to permit payment of obligations of the district incurred during the 2020-2021 fiscal year. It's recommended that the Board of Trustees approve this resolution. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Thank you, Ms. Urias. And a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mrs. Mead. Any discussion? All right, we will go for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And all opposed, say no. All right, that passes 5-0. And our next item is number 9, consent calendar action item. Consent items are considered routine and will be enacted by a single motion. None of the items will be discussed unless a board member requests discussion prior to the vote of the motion to adopt the consent calendar.
Madam President, I'd like to pull item 9A.
And don't hate me, I want to pull 9B, so.
Okay, could you just say that one more time?
Trustee Urias would like to pull consent calendar 9A.
9A, okay.
And I would like to pull 9B. So
Okay,
good thing
all right.
there's no more.
okay. All right, is there a motion?
I move to approve 9A.
All right, and discussion?
Yeah, I'm just, have a relative being considered for 9A. So I'd like to I'd like to abstain.
Okay.
And I have a question. There's a number of stipend positions. What is the rule about stipends, the number of students and how they service these students as they move forward? I'm not saying that they're not working, but to get a full stipend when they don't have students, and I haven't heard any information that summer sports will be in effect, and so I just don't know how it's worded, but I think as our budget moves forward, I think we need to have a better handle on stipends coming to the board.
In response to the stipends, that is a question, it's a concern. Not knowing, we can pool these till we find out further about starting the school year. So I completely get it.
And even summer?
Yeah, Dr. Torres, do you have anything about summer with stipends?
Yes, we actually have the two stipends which are, within the contract. And, originally we had a discussion in regards to the stipends, and because at least I know within the farm, there's additional work that does need to be conducted throughout the summer, especially with the animals at the farm. So that's why we went ahead and moved forward with that. And in regards to the summer sports, or the athletic director, even though at this point in time we are not, we don't anticipate any summer sports, there is additional work that will need to be completed by the director as he starts preparing for and moving into the beginning of the school year, which normally, obviously we don't know exactly what it's going to look like, but he is having to communicate and work with CIF in regards to what they anticipate the fall one's going to look like. So that's why at this point in time, we went ahead and put it on the agenda, because we do acknowledge that, there is additional work that he does during the summer that does move into the fall sports.
So, Dr. Torres, if I heard you correctly, then the two summer stipends are justified. Are we there? Are we in the same position with A, B, C, and D?
Well, some of these stipends, with the additional stipends, they were actually stipends that were pre-approved previously. And because of the agreement that we have with the association, that any stipends that were in place at the time that we left school, that they will continue to be honored. Now, moving forward into the next school year, that is something that we would have to assess and come to a determination whether or not, if there's no services being provided, do they receive the stipend? So that was one of the things when we negotiated that with the association, that those activities had to be in place at the time that we left school for our COVID, which was on March the 16th. So all those activities, they had already began doing either after school programs, after school interventions, clubs, and things like that. So any activities that did not commence prior to that date, we would not pay out as a stipend.
And thank you for clarifying. A, B, C, and D are for this current school year, not moving forward. Thank you. Ms. Sanchez-Reyes, did you have your hand raised? No. Okay, I thought you raised your hand. Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
So did that answer your question, Ms. Colbeck?
Yes, it's just that we need to be in our budget. You saw that we're only going to deficit spend almost $10 million in 18 months. So every bit needs to be scrutinized, and depending on positions or whatever, we have to be careful.
Okay. All right, so are we ready to take the vote? All right, all in favor of consent calendar items, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
I abstain.
And you're abstaining, I'm sorry, yes, sorry. Okay, all right, so 4 and 1 abstention. All right, okay. Now we're going to move to board member comments and requests.
Oh, we have,
I'm sorry?
we have 9B.
Oh, did I?
We need contracts to.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Sorry. We need to vote on 9B contracts. Is
So
there a
moved.
motion? Sorry. Motion? Thank you.
All right.
Discussion?
Yeah, again, this is mine, and it was, we only see these contracts, and they start July 1st. We don't see MOUs. It does say not to exceed, so I'm really hopeful, and I'm actually cautious, is that are these contracts, like the MOU, we can get out of them or not pay them as much as the amount says not to exceed, because we need to look at every possible funding, and this alone, these 2 contracts are $700,000, and they're student services, but they're kind of remote student services, so I'm just curious as to how many students there. Anyway, I just think I want to be reassured that this kind of thing is being gone over with a fine-tooth comb, but not seeing the MOU, I have no way of knowing what they say.
Ms. Shefferly, do you mind touching base on Renaissance Learning?
Yes, no problem. Renaissance Learning is a yearly contract that we have. Renaissance Learning provides STAR reading, accelerated reader, STAR math in some of our schools. The contract is expanded due to COVID, meaning that with the uncertainty of the type of services we're going to offer next school year, the contract does include accelerated reader, STAR reading, the Mayan book service, which provides over 7,000 books, online books, to all of our students district-wide. It provides the Freckle program, which is an adaptive supplemental program in English language arts and mathematics for grades K-5. Also includes social studies and science curriculum aligned to standards for grades K-5. For grades 6 through 8 includes ELA and mathematics. So it will provide, again, an online adaptive standards aligned program district-wide for next school year.
Thank you. Any questions on Renaissance Learning? Okay, Dr. Gear, you mind giving a brief overview of Presence Learning?
Presence Learning provides speech and language therapy for students based on their IEPs because we're unable to fill all of the vacancies for on-site speech and language pathologists. Corrected me if I'm wrong, Dr. Torres, we currently have 3 to 4 openings that we've been unable to fill over the last 2 to 3 years. Okay, and so because we cannot fill those, we have increased the number of speech and language pathology assistants, which are classified staff. However, they do need to be supervised by speech and language pathologists with what are called Cs, which means they've been certified to supervise that particular category of employee. They are not, they don't number enough. They have a cap of 55 students that by statute, they can't go over. However, we have been able to negotiate with our association to provide them with extra hours. Even with our negotiated MOU, we have to bring in outside services to make up the difference because there are not enough hours in the day. So they do service
this contract is for 170 of our students that receive speech and language therapy. It's an expensive service, and it did go up 4% over their last year charge.
And it's not that we haven't tried to fill those speech pathologist positions. They're just hard to come by.
They're difficult to fill at best, and when we do interview, there is a preference that most of them have that we guarantee them spots at certain locations, and we can't make a commitment to keep them at certain schools for their entire career. So they generally don't accept, and if they do accept, they accept with the condition that they want to stay for a year and then transition into a clinical position at a hospital.
I appreciate the explanations, and I have no problem with them. It's just that when the public starts seeing large amount of money like this, and I don't have an answer, I just need to ask, because moving forward, we're under the microscope. So thank you very much.
And we appreciate the question.
Perfectly understandable. So now we'll vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? And the vote carries 5-0. And now we'll go to board member comments and requests, starting with Ms. Urias.
I only have one item tonight, and that is that Santa Paula Latino Town Hall has awarded 14 scholarships to graduates at Renaissance High School and Santa Paula High School. 14 scholarships amounting to $7,000. So I'd just like to applaud Santa Paula Latino Town Hall for remembering our graduates and every year giving out scholarships to very deserving students. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Urias. And Mr. Luna?
Well, since this would be the last meeting before graduation, I just want to congratulate the class of 2020. No one could have predicted the situation that you all are in. And if parents are watching this, and students may be watching this at home as well, I just want to put it out there that to reinforce what careers out there that are still working during this pandemic, and think about that in the future, because you're going to want to hold a job during this time. And it is important that you pursue a career, and it's important that you pursue something that you like to do that will be beneficial to both you and your community to come. So once again, I just want to congratulate you all. And parents, I want to commend you for working through this process with your students at home. I know it's not an easy process, so kudos to you all and the district staff as well for implementing to the best of our abilities what we could implement at this time. I want to thank you all for that as well.
Thank you, Mr. Luna. It's nice to have you actually hear your voice. And Ms. Colbeck.
I too would like to congratulate the graduates of 2020. Many of you have had a lot of unusual experiences this year, and you can say to your children and grandchildren, well, when I was a senior, I went through fire and water and no school. So you'll have great stories to tell. Also, I want to congratulate any senior that has chosen a military career. We're proud of you and we thank you. I also want to say, just to give a shout out to Mr. Ray Frutos, who had been a long time, I think it was 38 years or more service to the district, but after he retired and before he retired, he would always bring patriotic programs. And I really thought of him this weekend because there would have been things at the school, there would have been things in the community. So I want to thank Ray Frutos for his military service and also his great service to the Santa Paula School District. One of the things I'd like is, I know it sounds like a naysay, but again, we're in a huge budget crunch. And I just want to make sure that the summer school budget is spent wisely. and not just because, oh, it's in such and such a category. We need to make sure we have students participating, and we need to not have some of these situations come up where the parent can't get a hold of the teacher that's doing the actual program, yet we paid them. So I just really want to have real eyes on anything at summer school that's beyond credit recovery, because money spent is money spent, no matter what pot it comes from. So thank you, and again, congratulations to the class of 2020.
Thank you, Mrs. Colbeck.
I just want to not repeat anything that was said, but it was well said from all of you. This has been a crazy time. We have some cards to read to our graduates, and I wanted to say not only to the seniors at the high school, we just feel so sorry. We wish we could have done something different for you. We know you deserve it. And also to the middle school students that are moving up to the high school, our thoughts are going to be with you. We congratulate all of you that are moving to a new situation, whether it be from the high school graduating or from the middle school moving up. So the first card is going to read, "We're so proud of you." We, as a school board, as administrators, teachers, parents, we are proud of what you have had to do above and beyond what we could have even imagined. And inside the card, it says, "You've got what it takes to make your dreams for the future come true." So keep dreaming, keep working towards that, and congratulations.
Thank you, Ms. Mead. I can't say anything more than what everyone else has said so beautifully. So I want to read my card, and then we'll go back and let them read their cards. My card says, "Adventure awaits, dream big, and work hard. Go change the world." And we already know from some of our graduates that they are doing that right now. So proud of you, graduate. Congratulations. We are so proud of you, and we heard so much that things have to be this way, but hopefully we're doing our best for you, and we wish you every happiness. And now I'm going to go back to Ms. Colbeck. I'm sorry.
Mine says, "Congratulations, grad 2020. And it's not just a diploma, it's everything you've accomplished that makes today so special." And I'd also add that life is about twists and turns, but as long as you keep your eye on the goal, it doesn't matter if you take a left or a right. And that's kind of like your year here. You kept your eye on the goal, you'll graduate. So here's to the future. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. Mr. Luna.
My card to the class of 2020 says, "Here's to a bright future." And it has a pair of glasses out here on the front. The inside of it reads, "Wherever life leads you, may happiness and success be yours." Just remember that. Life goes on, and we all know that life isn't easy. So here's to happiness and success to each and every one of you.
Thank you, Mr. Luna. And last but not least, Ms. Urias.
Mine says, "Watch out, world." So excited to see where life takes you. Congratulations. So.
Thank you all for doing that. And I will go now to our future meetings, which will be a regular board meeting on June the 10th and another regular board meeting on June 17th. And with that, I'm going to adjourn at 9 o'clock. Thank you all.